My husband's funeral was beautiful. Oak casket, white roses, a gospel choir singing Amazing Grace at Riverside Memorial Chapel in Nashville. My three children stood beside me in their designer black, tissues pressed to their lying eyes. That's when my phone buzzed. I'm still breathing. I'm not in that casket. I stared at those words, while 200 mourners watched me supposedly grieve. My fingers moved on autopilot. Who is this? The reply came fast. Can't reveal that. They're monitoring everything. Your children are dangerous. And just like that, standing there in my St. John funeral suit at 73 years old, I realized something was terribly wrong. Whoever was in that casket, it might not be my husband. My children had tried to kill him. And honey, they had no idea who they were messing with. If you love a good revenge story where grandma doesn't just get even, she gets everything, hit that subscribe button right now. This one's about to get wild. Let me back up for a second, because you need to understand something about me. My name is Lorraine Mitchell, and before I became a sweet grandmother, I spent 30 years as a district attorney in Williamson County, Tennessee. I put away corrupt politicians, white-collar criminals, and three-time murderers. I didn't do victim. I did prosecutor. But that day at Riverside Memorial, I played the role of my life. I clutched that phone while my oldest son Daniel squeezed my shoulder with his Judas hands, whispering, "It's okay, Mom. Dad's at peace now." Peace? Peace? According to that text message, something was very wrong, and the body in that $15,000 casket might not be my husband at all. I looked at Daniel, 48 years old, partner at Morrison & Associates law firm, driving a Tesla, living in a Belmead mansion. Then at Patricia, 45, head nurse at Vanderbilt Medical Center, always in Prada. Finally at Robert, 42. Real estate developer, just bought his third investment property in Franklin. My successful, beautiful, murdering children. I tucked my phone away and sobbed into my handkerchief, the kind that makes people uncomfortable, the kind that says broken widow instead of woman plotting revenge. Pastor Jim from First Baptist Church delivered a moving eulogy about George's 43 years at Tennessee Mutual Insurance, about his love of fly fishing on the Cumberland River, about his devotion to family. Not a word about the $4.2 million life insurance policy. Not a whisper about the offshore accounts. Nothing about the 3 adult children who'd been circling like vultures for months. The receiving line after the service lasted 2 hours. I shook hands, accepted casseroles, and listened to stories about what a good man George had been, all while my phone burned in my purse with secrets that would blow this whole charade wide open. Daniel approached me as people started leaving. "Mom, we need to talk about the house and Dad's finances. Patricia and I think you should come stay with one of us. You shouldn't be alone." Translation: we need to control you before you figure out what we did. "That's sweet, honey," I said, patting his cheek. The same cheek I'd kissed when he was born at Baptist Hospital. The same boy I'd rocked through nightmares and driven to baseball practice. "But I'll be fine in the farmhouse. Your father and I built that place with our own hands." "It's too much for you to maintain," Patricia chimed in, her voice dripping with false concern. "The property taxes alone." "I said I'll be fine." The steel in my voice made them both step back. Good. Let them remember that before I was their mother, I was a woman who'd made grown men cry on witness stands. Robert joined us, his cologne expensive enough to choke a horse. "We've scheduled the will reading for tomorrow at 2 p.m., Morrison & Associates, Daniel's office." How convenient. My son, the lawyer, handling his dead father's estate. "I'll be there," I said simply. As the last mourners left and the funeral director started closing up, I slipped into the bathroom. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. Another message was waiting for me. "It's Thomas, George's brother. I can't talk long. They might be watching." My breath caught. Thomas? George's brother who died in a boating accident 20 years ago. Lost at sea, body never recovered. We'd mourned him. George had cried at his memorial service. Apparently, we'd mourned a ghost. Why did you fake your death? Witness protection. I testified against some very bad people in Memphis. Organized crime. George helped me disappear, gave me a new identity. I've been living in Montana under the name James Crawford for 2 decades. And now I came back to warn George that his children were planning something, but I was too late. They'd already made their move. I sat on that toilet in Riverside Memorial Chapel, 73 years old, and felt rage so pure it could have lit Nashville on fire. Tell me everything. Thomas's next message included a phone number. I called it the moment I got home to the farmhouse, the 200-acre property in Leiper's Fork that George and I bought in 1979 for $50,000, now worth $3.2 million, according to Robert's greedy assessment. Lorraine. Thomas's voice was older, rougher, but unmistakably familiar. I'm so sorry about George. Start talking, I said, pouring myself 4 fingers of George's Blanton's bourbon. And don't you dare spare my feelings. So he told me. 6 months ago, Thomas had seen something that made his blood run cold. A Reddit post in a true crime forum. Someone with the username Tennessee Justice was asking detailed questions about how to make a heart attack look natural, how to avoid autopsy red flags, how to access someone's life insurance within 24 hours of death. Thomas, paranoid from his years in witness protection, had started digging. The IP address traced to a coffee shop in Green Hills, Patricia's neighborhood. He'd hacked the account, old FBI contacts still owed him favors, and found private messages between 3 users, Tennessee Justice, Legal Eagle 615, and Franklin Developer. My 3 children. They'd been planning it for 8 months, Thomas said, ever since Robert found out about George's offshore accounts. Did you know about those? No. The bourbon burned going down. George handled all our finances. He had $2.8 million in a Cayman account, money from some real estate deals in the 90s that paid out better than expected. He never reported it because, well, taxes. He was going to use it for your retirement, maybe buy a beach condo in Destin. My George, the rule follower, had hidden $2.8 million. The irony would have been funny if my children weren't trying to murder him for it. They didn't just want the money. They needed you gone too, eventually. The farmhouse property is in both your names. As long as you're alive, they only get 1/3 each when you die naturally. But if George dies first, you inherit everything. Then when you die, they get it all. I finished his sentence. So they needed George dead, and me, what? Incompetent? Institutionalized? Patricia had already started paperwork to have you declared mentally unfit. Dementia diagnosis from a doctor she's sleeping with. Robert had forged power of attorney documents ready to go. Daniel was prepared to file competency hearings the week after the funeral. The room spun. Not from the bourbon, from the sheer calculation of it all. How did they plan to kill him? They hired someone. Guy named Marcus Webb, ex-military, does problem solving for rich people, makes things look like accidents or natural causes. He was supposed to cause a heart attack during George's morning jog on the Natchez Trace. I remembered that morning, 3 weeks ago. George had left at 6 a.m. like always. He'd kissed my forehead, said, "Love you, Lorraine. 42 years and you still take my breath away." He'd never come back. I got to him first, Thomas said. I'd been watching your house, watching Webb. When George left that morning, I intercepted him on mile marker 423, told him everything. We had maybe 10 minutes before Webb showed up. So you faked his death. We had to make it convincing. I had contacts at the county medical examiner's office, people who owed me from the old days. We used a John Doe, similar age and build, who died of natural causes the night before, switched the bodies before anyone could interfere. By the time Patricia arrived at the morgue to confirm the identity, she works at Vanderbilt, but the county morgue handles this kind of case. George was already tagged and in the system as deceased. The audacity of it. The absolute brass balls. I was the one who texted you at the funeral. George was already at the safe house with no phone, but I needed you to know immediately that body wasn't him. Where is he now? Safe house in Gatlinburg. Scared out of his mind, furious, and ready to watch his children go to prison. Drop a comment below and tell me what you would do if your own kids betrayed you like this. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This story's about to get even crazier. I stood up, paced my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made birthday cakes and Thanksgiving dinners, where I'd bandaged scraped knees and helped with homework, where I raised 3 monsters in designer clothing. Thomas, what evidence do we have?
Everything. Webb recorded his conversations with Daniel. Insurance policy. I have those recordings. We have the Reddit posts. We have Patricia's fake medical documents. We have Robert's forged power of attorney. And we have Marcus Webb in FBI custody singing like Dolly Parton at the Grand Ole Opry. I smiled. The kind of smile that used to make defense attorneys nervous in court. What's the plan? The will reading tomorrow. They think they're about to get rich. Instead, they're going to get arrested. FBI, Tennessee State Police, and the DA's office are coordinating. Your old colleagues are very interested in prosecuting this case. My old colleagues? I'd worked with most of them for decades. They knew me, trusted me, and they sure as hell weren't going to let anyone hurt me. I want to be the one to tell them, I said. I want to look them in their faces when they realize they failed. Lorraine, I spent 30 years prosecuting criminals. These are my children. I brought them into this world. I get to watch them burn. He was quiet for a long moment. You were always tougher than George gave you credit for. I said George thought I was soft because I cried at commercials and kept a garden. What he forgot was that I put away a serial killer while 8 months pregnant with Daniel. I never stopped being a prosecutor. I just started wearing cardigans instead of power suits. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in George's study looking at family photos, Daniel's law school graduation, Patricia's wedding to that hedge fund manager, divorced now, of course, Robert's ribbon-cutting ceremony for his first development project, smiling faces, proud parents, a lifetime of love and sacrifice. And they tried to murder their father for money. The next morning, I dressed carefully. Navy Armani suit, the one I'd worn to closing arguments in my last case. Pearl earrings George had given me for our 40th anniversary. My hair in a neat silver bun. Red lipstick. War paint. The drive from Leaper's Fork to downtown Nashville usually calmed me. Rolling hills, horse farms, the kind of Tennessee beauty that makes you understand why people write songs about it. But that Tuesday afternoon, I barely saw the scenery. My hands gripped the steering wheel of my 2019 Honda CR-V. Sensible, reliable, exactly what a widow should drive. And my mind was racing through every possible scenario. Daniel's law office occupied the 15th floor of the Pinnacle building, all glass and steel overlooking the Cumberland River. Parking cost $25. I'd always thought that was criminal. Now, I knew what real criminal behavior looked like. The receptionist, a young woman named Ashley with kind eyes, greeted me with sympathy. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm so sorry for your loss. Mr. Mitchell is expecting you in conference room A. Thank you, dear. I played my role perfectly. Grieving widow, a little confused, definitely out of her depth. The conference room was exactly what you'd expect from a fancy law firm. Mahogany table, leather chairs, a view that showed half of Nashville. Daniel sat at the head of the table in his $2,000 suit, looking every inch the successful attorney. Patricia was to his right, designer sunglasses perched on her head, despite being indoors. Robert checked his Rolex, his third hint that he had somewhere more important to be. "Mom," Daniel stood, all fake warmth. "Can we get you water, coffee?" Water would be lovely. I took the seat across from them, deliberately. I wanted to see all their faces. Ashley brought water in fancy glasses with the Morrison and Associates logo. The irony of my son's law firm handling the theft of my assets wasn't lost on me. "So," Daniel began, opening a leather portfolio, "Dad's affairs are fairly straightforward. The house, the life insurance, his retirement accounts, and some investment properties." "Your father always was organized," I said softly. "The total declared estate is approximately $6.7 million, Patricia said, and I caught the gleam in her eye. Dollar signs. They were already spending it. Between the life insurance, the farmhouse value, his 401k, and some other assets we've identified. Other assets. Such a polite way to say money we think exists but haven't found yet. Of course, they had no idea about the $2.8 million offshore. That was George's little secret. Well, mine now. "Now, Mom," Daniel continued, opening a leather portfolio, "Dad's affairs are fairly straightforward. The house, the life insurance, his retirement accounts, and some investment properties." "Your father always was organized," I said softly. "The total declared estate is approximately $6.7 million, Patricia said, and I caught the gleam in her eye. Dollar signs. They were already spending it. Between the life insurance, the farmhouse value, his 401k, and some other assets we've identified. Other assets. Such a polite way to say money we think exists but haven't found yet. Of course, they had no idea about the $2.8 million offshore. That was George's little secret. Well, mine now. "Now, Mom," Daniel continued, "given your age and the complexity of managing these assets, Patricia and I think it's best if we set up a trust. You'll have access to income, of course, but we'll handle the actual management of—" "No." The word landed like a grenade. Daniel blinked. "I'm sorry?" I said no. "I'm 73, not senile. I managed a household budget for 42 years. I think I can handle my own finances." "Mother, be reasonable," Patricia said, her voice taking on that condescending tone she used with difficult patience. "This is a lot of money. Investment strategies, tax implications. I was a district attorney, sweetheart. I understand tax law better than most CPAs. Robert finally looked up from his phone. "Mom, we're just trying to help." Help. I let the word hang there. Like you helped your father. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. What's that supposed to mean? Daniel's lawyer mask slipped for just a second. "Oh, nothing," I smiled. "I'm just a confused old widow. What do I know?" Daniel exchanged looks with his siblings. It was Patricia who spoke next, her voice honey-sweet with poison underneath. "Actually, Mom, there's something we need to discuss. I've been concerned about your mental health, the grief, the stress. It's completely understandable that you might not be thinking clearly. Here it comes. I had Dr. Wilkinson do an evaluation last month. His assessment suggests early-stage dementia, memory issues, confusion, difficulty with complex tasks." I picked up the document, read it carefully. Dr. Richard Wilkinson, the same doctor Patricia had been seen leaving the Hermitage Hotel with at 11 p.m. on multiple occasions. "This evaluation is dated 2 weeks before your father died," I said calmly. "Funny thing is, I never met with Dr. Wilkinson." Patricia didn't miss a beat. "You did, Mom. You just don't remember. That's part of the condition." The gaslighting was exquisite, almost professional. "I see." I set the document down. "And I suppose you have power of attorney papers ready to go." Robert actually had the decency to look uncomfortable. Just a precaution to protect you. Protect me, I laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. From what exactly? My own money? My own property? My own life? Mom, you're getting upset, Daniel said in that same tone he'd used when he was 7 and broke my favorite vase. This is exactly why we're concerned.
Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? The prosecutor voice came out, the one that made juries sit up straight. Did you honestly believe you could kill your father, steal everything we built, and I'd just smile and sign whatever papers you put in front of me? The silence was deafening. Patricia recovered first. Mom, you're confused. Dad died of a heart attack, natural causes. The medical examiner confirmed that. The medical examiner confirmed that a body died of heart failure, but whose body was it really, Patricia? Her face went white. Actual, visible white. Daniel stood up. I think we need to pause this meeting, Mom. You're clearly in distress. Sit. Down. He sat. I pulled out my phone. I received an interesting text message at your father's funeral. Would you like to hear it? Robert's Rolex suddenly became very interesting to him. I'm still breathing. I'm not in that casket. I read aloud. Quite the message to get while burying your husband, except, as it turns out, I wasn't burying my husband at all. I was burying a John Doe from the county morgue. Fascinating how that happened, isn't it? Patricia's hand shook as she reached for her water glass. Missed. Knocked it over. Nobody moved to clean it up. Here's what I know, I continued, and my voice was steel wrapped in southern silk. I know about Reddit user Tennessee Justice and her very specific questions about faking heart attacks. I know about Marcus Webb, ex-military, for hire, very expensive. I know about $2.8 million in offshore accounts that George never told me about. And I know about 3 adult children who decided murder was easier than getting real jobs. You can't prove any of this, Daniel said, but his voice cracked. Can't I? I smiled. Marcus Webb is currently in FBI custody. He's very chatty when facing federal charges. Recorded all his conversations with you, Daniel. Smart man. Wanted insurance in case something went wrong. Daniel's face transformed from smug attorney to trapped rat in approximately 3 seconds. And Patricia, darling, that fake dementia diagnosis, the Tennessee Medical Board is going to be very interested in that. Fraud, ethics violations, conspiracy, you'll be lucky to keep your nursing license, let alone stay out of prison. She started crying. Real tears this time, not the performance art from the funeral. Robert, those forged power of attorney documents have your fingerprints all over them. Literally. You really should wear gloves when committing felonies. He stood up so fast his chair fell over. I'm calling my lawyer. Excellent idea. You'll need a good one. But probably not your brother. He'll be a little busy with his own defense. The conference room door opened. Special Agent Carolyn Rhodes walked in first. I'd worked with her on 7 cases during my time as DA. Behind her, 4 more FBI agents, 3 Tennessee State Police officers, and District Attorney Michael Hayes. Daniel, Patricia, Robert Mitchell, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, identity theft, and about 15 other charges we're still tallying up. The next 10 minutes were beautiful. Handcuffs clicking, Miranda rights being read, Patricia hyperventilating, Robert threatening to sue everyone, Daniel, the lawyer, finally smart enough to shut his mouth.
As they were being led out, Daniel looked at me one last time. How could you do this to us? We're your children. I met his eyes, the same green eyes I'd looked into when I rocked him as a baby, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. I'm not doing this to you, son. You did it to yourselves. I'm just making sure justice gets served. You'll be all alone, Patricia sobbed. You'll have nobody. I'll have my husband, I said, the one you tried to kill. After they were gone, I sat in that conference room for a long moment. DA Nike Hayes pulled up a chair beside me. You okay, Lorraine? Ask me in a year. I stared at the water stain on the expensive mahogany table. Maybe 5 years. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Nobody should have to go through this. But they do, don't they? I looked at him. How many cases did we prosecute together? How many families torn apart by greed? Too many. He handed me a tissue. The difference is you prosecuted those families. This time, you lived it. Where's George? Still in Gatlinburg with Thomas. We kept him in protective custody until we were sure there weren't any other threats. Webb might have been working alone, but we had to verify. When can I see him? Now, if you want. I can drive you up there. The drive to Gatlinburg took 2 hours. Mike Hayes was kind enough to let me sit in silence. What do you say after your children are arrested for trying to murder your spouse? Hallmark doesn't make a card for that. The safe house was a cabin off Ski Mountain Road, tucked into the Smoky Mountains like a secret. Federal agents were stationed outside. Inside, it smelled like pine and coffee. And there was George. My husband of 42 years sat at a kitchen table, looking older and more tired than I'd ever seen him. Gray stubble on his chin, flannel shirt instead of his usual button-down. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. Lorraine. I crossed the room in 3 steps and slapped him. The sound echoed in the small cabin. That's for lying to me about $2.8 million for 25 years, I said. Then I kissed him. And that's for being alive. We held each other and cried, the kind of crying that comes from grief and relief and rage all mixed together. Thomas, or James Crawford, or whoever he was now, tactfully disappeared into the back room. I'm so sorry, George, he whispered into my hair. I should have told you about the money. I should have seen what they were becoming. I should have... Stop. We'll have 40 years to discuss your terrible decisions. Right now, I just need to know you're real. We sat on that couch in a government safe house in Gatlinburg, and he told me everything. The real estate deals in the 90s that had paid off bigger than expected, his fear of the IRS, his plan to come clean and use the money for our retirement, his complete blindness to his children's greed. He said, I thought I raised them right. I thought we gave them values, morals, work ethic. We did. They chose to ignore all of it. I took his hand. This isn't our failure, George. This is theirs.
What happens now? Now, I smiled, and it was my first real smile in weeks. Now, we figure out what the hell to do with nearly $10 million between the declared estate and your secret offshore accounts while our children rot in federal prison. $10 million, Thomas said, coming back into the room with 3 glasses of whiskey. That's what it adds up to when you count everything. The $6.7 million they knew about, plus the $2.8 million they didn't, plus appreciation. To family, he said dryly, the ones who don't try to kill you. We drank. How long were you planning to stay dead? I asked George. Just long enough to watch them hang themselves. I wanted to see their faces when they realized. He stopped. That's vindictive. That's justice, I corrected. There's a difference. The FBI wanted statements. The DA needed depositions. The press was going to have a field day. Prominent Nashville family arrested in murder for hire plot. We'd be the scandal of the century in Williamson County. But sitting there with George alive and my children facing consequences, I felt something unexpected. Relief. We should get a beach condo in Destin, like you planned. Use some of that Keeman money.
George looked at me. And are you mad about the money? Oh, I'm furious. But you're alive to be yelled at, so we'll call it even. I squeezed his hand. Besides, after today, I think we've earned a beach. 3 months later, I stood on the back porch of our farmhouse in Leaper's Fork, watching the sunset paint the Tennessee hills gold and purple. George was grilling steaks, his first time using the Weber since his resurrection. Thomas was visiting from Montana, or wherever he actually lived now. We'd opened a bottle of wine that cost more than our first car. The trial was scheduled for 6 months out. Daniel had hired a dream team of lawyers who were currently scrambling to find a defense for crystal clear evidence. Patricia had lost her nursing license and was facing medical board hearings on top of criminal charges. Robert's real estate empire was crumbling as investors fled from the scandal. The Tennessean had run a front-page story, "Former DA's children arrested in elaborate murder plot." My old colleagues sent flowers and texts offering support. The neighborhood gossips were having the time of their lives. And me? I was drinking expensive wine with my not-dead husband and his not-dead brother, watching chickens peck around the yard and feeling something close to peace. "You know what's funny?" George said, flipping steaks. "They would have gotten it eventually. We're not immortal. Another 10, 15 years, and it all would have been theirs anyway." Greed doesn't do math. It just wants everything now. "What will you do with the money?" Thomas asked. "All of it, I mean, the declared estate plus the offshore accounts." I'd thought about this a lot. First, I'm paying the back taxes on that Cayman money, with interest and penalties. I'm not about to go to prison for George's creative accounting. "That's going to be expensive," George winced. "Then, we're setting up a scholarship fund at Tennessee State for students pursuing law, nursing, or business in honor of Daniel, Patricia, and Robert Mitchell. Their names will help kids who actually deserve it." "That's brutal," Thomas laughed. "I love it."
And the beach condo in Destin. And maybe some travel. I've always wanted to see Ireland. I looked at George. We've got time now. We should use it. The sun sank lower and the cicadas started their evening song. It was the sound of summer in Tennessee, of home, of life continuing despite everything. My phone buzzed. A text from DA Mike Hayes. "Patricia trying to make a deal, offering testimony against her brothers. Thought you should know." Of course she was. Patricia always did look out for herself first. I showed George the text. He sighed. "Does it bother you that they'll turn on each other?" "No," I said honestly. "They turned on us first. They turned on their father. They turned on every value we tried to teach them. This is just the logical conclusion." Another text came through, this one from my old paralegal, Judy. "Saw the news. Coffee next week? I want all the details." I replied, "Tuesday at Frothy Monkey. Bring your appetite for scandal." "Are you going to be okay?" Thomas asked quietly. "Losing all 3 kids at once?" I thought about that question. Really thought about it. I lost them a long time ago. I just didn't realize it until they tried to kill George. The kids I raised, the ones I loved, they don't exist anymore. Maybe they never did. Maybe I just saw what I wanted to see. "That's not true," George said firmly. "They were good kids once. Something changed. Money, pressure, entitlement. Something broke along the way." "Does it matter?" I asked. "The result is the same." We ate dinner on the back porch as stars appeared over Tennessee. Thomas told stories about Montana, about building a new life with a new name. George talked about his fly fishing plans for the fall. I mostly listened, soaking in the sound of voices I'd thought I'd never hear together. Later that night, after Thomas had gone to the guest room and George had fallen asleep, I stood in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd fed my babies, where I'd packed school lunches and made birthday cakes, where I'd created a home for a family that had tried to destroy itself. On the refrigerator, held by a magnet from Dollywood, was a photo from Daniel's law school graduation. All of us smiling, so proud, so hopeful about the future. I took it down. Not to throw away. I wasn't ready for that yet. But I slipped it into a drawer. Out of sight. A memory of something that was gone. In its place, I put a new photo. George and me in Gatlinburg, taken by an FBI agent with an iPhone. We looked tired and scared, but we were smiling. Real smiles. Survivor smiles. If this story hits you in the feels, drop a "Justice Served" in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, come on now. Where else are you going to find grandmother revenge stories this satisfying? Hit that button. You know you want to. My phone buzzed one more time. Another text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Marcus Webb. My attorney says I shouldn't contact you, but I wanted you to know I never would have gone through with it. When I met your husband on that trail, something didn't feel right. I was going to back out. Your brother-in-law just beat me to it. I'm sorry for my part in this. I hope you can forgive me someday." I stared at that message for a long time. Marcus Webb. The hitman with a conscience. The man my children had hired to kill their father. Now facing federal charges and probably 15 years in prison. Did I forgive him? I didn't know yet. Maybe someday, maybe never. But I texted back, "Thank you for telling me. I hope you find peace with your choices." Because here's the thing about revenge, about justice, about karma. It's not clean. It's not simple. You don't get a neat ending where the good guys win and everyone lives happily ever after. You get complicated. You get messy. You get 3 children in federal custody, a husband who hid millions, a brother-in-law who faked his death, and a hitman who almost murdered your spouse but couldn't go through with it. You get a 73-year-old former DA standing in her kitchen at midnight, drinking bourbon and wondering how her life became a crime drama. But you also get this. You get to wake up tomorrow morning next to the man you love. You get to plan that beach condo and the Ireland trip. You get to create a scholarship fund that will help kids who deserve it. You get to watch the sunrise over Tennessee hills and know that you fought back. You get to survive. And sometimes, that's the best revenge of all. I finished my bourbon, turned off the kitchen lights, and went to bed. George was snoring softly, alive and warm and real. I curled up next to him, and for the first time in 3 months, I slept without nightmares. The trial would come. The press would continue. The neighbors would gossip. My children would face justice. But tonight, I was just Lorraine Mitchell, former DA, current widow, technically, future beach condo owner, and the woman who absolutely refused to be a victim. Sweet tea and karma, honey. Sometimes they both taste real good.